You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
He is a member of the legendary Anoa'i family. He is none other than Rosey. How you doing tonight, Rosey?
How you doing, guys? How you doing?
Oh, we're doing really well. Doing very well, thank you.
Right on. Thanks for having me on the show, guys.
Oh, it's a great pleasure. Is it, I guess, if you're a male and in the Anoa'i family, is it a birthright to be a professional wrestler? Do you have a choice?
Sort of, not really. Depends, you know. That just never, I don't think that's ever been a subject in my family when it comes to professional wrestling. Everybody just seems to gravitate towards it.
But in all actuality, you actually wanted to play pro football first, though, correct?
Right. Yeah, I sure did.
Now, tell us a little bit about that. Tell us about your experiences with, in college football, what you did getting ready for the NFL, and how that worked out for you.
Oh, it didn't really, I don't know. Just football was something I loved to do. My dad back then was on the road a lot, and I didn't really see him for, but a couple times out of the month maybe. So yeah, football was a sport to do if you weren't playing around in the wrestling ring in the backyard, So yeah, I just fell in love with playing ball, and next thing you know, I started turning into Samoan in high school, and shoulders got bigger and broader, and I get taller, and next thing you know, football is a sport I can do damage in. So yeah, I just sat there and developed a big passion for football, and was lucky enough to get a college education out of it, and unlucky enough to get in the NFL, but hey, that's the way it is. So, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I got a chance to do something not a lot of people got to do, and that's block for Emmett Smith.
That's what I was just getting at. You had him in high school with you, right?
Yeah, he was a year older than me. But we went to high school 3 years, and then played in little league ball for 2 years. Well, a year and a half. I started late the first year. So yeah, I've gotten to know Emmett for a long time now.
Could you tell even back then, Rosey, that he was going to be something special?
Emmett, heck yeah. Oh God, I knew that at Bellevue Ballpark. He was a player. I mean, he was just like his dad, man. His dad was a real good running back. Everybody in his family were good running backs, His brother Eric, he was a phenomenal running back after him, and his other brother Emery, he ended up playing a couple years as a defensive linebacker for Green Bay Packers, So just like the Anoa'i family, the Smith family, they're pretty athletic, and they do a lot with their talent.
This is the Undisputed Wrestling Show on the Angry Marks Podcast Network, your home for the best in mixed martial arts and professional wrestling. And we are having the great privilege of speaking with Rosey of 3 Minute Warning fame. When did you know, obviously you've been around wrestling your entire life. You grew up with it. Your dad was in it. Your uncle was in it. Everybody in your family was in it. When did you make the connection that said, you know what, this is something I really do want to pursue? Or did you always just consider it a fallback?
Oh, we can probably consider it a last alternative, maybe.
Yeah?
I always knew I'd be involved with wrestling. I mean, I was running shows for my dad when I was, 17, 18 years old. And so I always knew I was going to have a part of that. But my... like I said, I wanted to be an NFL football player. Whether I would have played, any NFL or 1 year or 15 years, wrestling would have inevitably came after. So, maybe it was just a prolonged decision to get into professional wrestling, but I always knew that was going to be an option. So it really couldn't count as a fallback, There's plenty of things that I was able to do. I'm college educated, and I'm, I can get around in the world without professional wrestling. But now you got to now you got to sit there and think about if I love it or not, and I love it with all my heart. You know, this is what my family does. This is how we made our mark in this world, and in the wrestling books. So it's I'm blessed. We'll just put it like that. I'm blessed to be.
Well, for those who aren't aware of your lineage, I guess your dad is the legendary Sika of the Wild Samoans.
Right.
Papa, your uncle. You got good grief. Let's see, Tonga Kid, Yokozuna, Rikishi, Umaga, The Rock, and of course your brother Roman Reigns. That's a pretty dang good stable of wrestlers, if you ask me. When people talk about the first family of wrestling and your family doesn't come at the very top of the list, I have a hard time understanding their rationale, I guess, a little bit. So as a young superhero in training, you go around the arenas maybe with your dad. Who are some of the guys that influenced you at such a young age besides your uncle and your father around the ring?
Man, it wasn't really who influenced. I mean, if you want an influence, it was pretty much all of them. Everybody, I took a little piece of everybody, and I had for some reason, the Masked Superstar was I always caught my attention, and I always liked it when my dad and him were on the same shows. I dug hanging out with Pat Patterson. He was pretty funny, Heck, I even liked hanging out with Thunderbolt Patterson. He was sitting in the backyard at a barbecue with him in the backyard. It's just funny, And these are things I remember when I'm like 6, 7, 8 years old. So, but there's everybody. There's a lot of different influences in my life because I've been lucky enough to be a little closer than the average person to a lot of these people. So, but the biggest obvious influence is my family, my dad. That's who came home to yell at me when I didn't cut the grass or drive 8 hours out of the way to catch me in a football game. And so yeah, my dad's definitely the biggest influence, with a bunch of other people sprinkled along the side.
It was really cool this year watching Rikishi go into the Hall of Fame and seeing, your dad and some other people in your family out in the audience. And it's like I was saying earlier, when people think about the great wrestling families, for some reason beyond my understanding, they think Von Erichs or they think, Funk or they think good. Rhodes, and that's fine. But if you look at how many professional wrestlers your family has and how the level of success,
23.
Yeah, as I say, the level of success that you all have had in the business, it just bewilders my mind that people don't. And I think seeing Rikishi go in and hearing his speech might have finally woken up the world on just what talent level you guys have in your family. It was just, I don't know, it was eye-opening for me, and I certainly hope it was eye-opening for a lot of other wrestling people who love wrestling as much as I do.
You know what? Everybody will say what they want or text what they want or do what they want, but there's a real easy way to look at it, and I'm gonna tweak this because I had said it differently earlier today, but just looking at as far as wrestling families go, what's the biggest number, and what's the highest in wrestling families besides mine? Maybe 4 or 5 members.
Probably.
All right. Well, we've got over 5 members in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Exactly.
So, as far as anybody wanting to contemplate which wrestling family would be probably the most dominant wrestling family, I'd say, it would be my family. So, and that's awesome. It's kind of like a milestone that I don't think will ever get broken. But at the same time, it's a privilege to it's a privilege to be me, you know?
Yep. This is the Undisputed Wrestling Show. We're talking to Rosey, and I'm going to tag it off to my brother, the bearded one himself, Zane Paisley. Zane, you're in.
Well, Rosey, thank you so much for coming on. And I had the opportunity to meet you at Jason Maple's show, Heroes and Legends, a few years ago. And it was a pleasure meeting you then, and it's a pleasure meeting you on the phone here tonight. We really appreciate it. You had mentioned the ring in the backyard. Were you talking about literally that there was a ring in your backyard growing up?
Yeah, everybody else had play sets. We had a wrestling ring. So, yeah. You know, it was kind of used for a couple of things. Every now and then, you know, half my family would air their trunks out after they put the boards up and stuff. So, but
so,
yeah.
So it was used for training and it was used for a clothesline, huh?
I'm sorry, say it again.
It was used for training and it was also used as a literal clothesline then, huh?
Wrestling gear line anyway.
Yeah.
We had to hang our lava lavas up somewhere. So,
so after the University of Hawaii, you came home. Is that when you started training with your uncle and your father?
No, I went down to work in New Orleans for a few years. I was a floor manager at a pretty popular strip club there called Crescent Cabaret, and I was 20. I was 22. And, you know, single, no kids. Hell yeah, I'm going to go live in New Orleans and make a couple G's a week looking at strippers. Who wouldn't? I'm not a bad-looking guy, you know, so there were some French benefits that went with it.
So what pulled you into the world of professional wrestling that your family was obviously so heavily involved in?
Man, I was sitting there and it's a true story. I'm not making this up one bit. But I was sitting in a friend of mine's bar down on Iberville, and it's a little corner bar called the Gemini. And I was sitting there and I was talking to the bartender that was on. It's about 2 a.m, and you know, I just kind of looked at him. He's about 60-year-old man. I just sat there and looked at him. I was like, dude, you need to move out of the French Quarter. That's going to be you. Either a 57-year-old, you know, bartender or a 57-year-old, you know, sleazy strip club manager. You know, so yeah, that's when I decided to move up north and get over along my uncle's, staying close to my uncle's hometown, Allentown, where he had a school. So I moved up there, and that's when I started training. But it was more training, just getting the independence than it was really training at the school. Of course, my dad, he moved over while I was in New Orleans for about 6-7 months and brought the ring over there, and we trained, in the backyard there. But by then, I just kind of took what I learned so far and just took off and started living that life that I lived when I was 5 years old, you know, running the roads, working for different companies, living like a gypsy and doing my best to make it happen.
Well, when did you start working then with your cousin, who most of our listeners will remember as Umaga?
We started working, this was after I had signed, not a lot of people actually know, but I actually signed in 96 with my cousin Samu. This was a couple years after he had finished his deal with our cousin Junior, Rikishi, as the head shrinkers. Mm-hmm. So we kind of short-lived that contract, and we ended up going to ECW for it a little while. And that was pretty brief, about 6 months maybe. And then I moved back down to Pensacola, and that's where my cousin Eki lived at the time. So it just kind of seemed like a no-brainer with it. You know, we were doing shows for my dad, and I was back helping him promote shows and stuff. And it just seemed like we could, it was going to work. And then we went to a show in Dothan, Alabama, and Sabu was on the same card, and we sat and talked with him for a while, and he let us know that he was going to get in touch with his aunt that was the American contact for FMW, so Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling. So that's really when we kind of solidified ourselves as a tag team. Is when we started taking off to Japan and wrestling, and then very shortly after that, WWE started calling. So
well, FMW is mainly known for their hardcore matches. Did you have to do any exploding ring matches or anything crazy like that when you worked over there?
No, hell, you wouldn't see nothing explode if we were laying on it. You kidding me, man? We're Samoan, dude. No, we didn't do. We had some hardcore matches, you know, and we kept it. We kept it strong with it, you know, strong style and stuff. But no exploding matches, no barbed wire matches, or any of that. We just had pretty much, you know, a generic, straight hardcore match, tables, chairs, anything else you can get your hands on.
Well, what's the difference like working in front of an American crowd versus a Japanese crowd?
Just the noise level, the activity level. The only real place that kind of comes anywhere remotely close to America would be Corrigan Hall in Tokyo, you know, because most of those shows are ran, you know, more out in country towns and stuff like that. So there's a level of they just kind of wait anxiously to see if you can make them stomp their feet. You know, you get them stomping their feet, you know, you're having a great match. So,
well, it's known that the Japanese culture is, you know, everything's a lot smaller over there. I've heard of stories of the promotions, you know, bussing around the foreign workers and having to take seats out to accommodate some of the larger workers. You know, you and your partner are both Samoan. Did they ever have to do anything special to be able to fit you guys either in a hotel room or in transit?
No, we were no. The hotel, I don't know what kind of hotels they were staying in back then, but no, we rode the same short bus that you know, Andre and Big John Studd, all those guys rode, and didn't have to move anything around really. About the worst thing that happened to us would be you know, the room would probably be small enough you'd have to go take a shit downstairs or something. You know? Ain't no fitting in that bathroom sometimes, you know. So.
Right. I'm going to tag in Rick Craig once again. Prophet, what's your next question?
Well, first, we are the Undisputed Wrestling Show, brought to you by the Angry Marks Podcast Network, and we have the great honor of speaking to Rosey tonight, one half of the 3-minute warning. So finally, Rosey, you got your big break in the WWE. You did the 3-minute warning as the enforcers to Eric Bischoff. What was it like, I guess, working alongside Eric Bischoff so closely? And, you know, really you guys' first big shot at, you know, the big dance, I guess is what they call it. But you got to work with Eric Bischoff almost immediately. What was it like? Was it intimidating working with him, or how did he treat you? What was it like, you know, working alongside him?
Well, to be really, really honest with you, we didn't work alongside him very much. You know, if you can remember back, half of the stuff, you know, he did was standing on the Titantron,
he orchestrated it from afar.
But for the most part, it was still the first time that I've met him, and Eki met him. But he was really cool. You know, if you didn't know him, you'd never known that he was, you know, the head of WCW. So, you know, I've had the opportunity to work with him on the Hogan tour, as well. And, you know, same results, just happy to be there. Good guy. Never really seen an attitude, but then again, not a lot of people give my family attitude, you know?
Right. So after 3-minute warning, had their run. Then it was finally time for the Hurricane. And when they approached you, I guess, to work with Greg Helms or Shane Helms, and wanted to make you and transform you into a superhero, guess what was your initial thoughts to it?
My initial thoughts was like, oh shit, how am I going to get out of this and figure out something, figure out how to just stay in my jerseys and shit. But there's always, I just had a thought in the back of my head too that because I've always had acting as maybe a minor, and and football and wrestling was a major. But I really thought about the fact that, all right, I could do this, and if I've got any kind of acting skills, maybe I can, this will definitely help work on them, because I very much would have liked to pursue a career in acting. At that point in time in my life, acting or doing some kind of stunt work type stuff, I was really into that kind of stuff. But as far as that character, it was fun because I was having, I had my son Jordan, and then my daughter Madison was born, and I just started thinking about kids and stuff, and they, because whenever I thought about it, I just started thinking about other people that had a character or that kids liked, and plus, it bottom line is, whenever it was a challenge for me, and I took it, and I considered it all right, let's see what you got, And then Vince came out with, man, couldn't you see every kid out there wearing a shit shirt? And that's when the arm opened up real wide and said, T-shirt? Oh, hell yeah. Okay. Sure thing.
The cool thing about it is it's like you said.
Janet Jackson pulled her titty out during the Super Bowl. Fucked it all up.
I was going to say, you made it work, and something that could have been disastrous under other circumstances, you made it work for you, and you made it successful.
I hope I did. I don't. Of course, there's anybody that talks to me is, going to say good things and stuff, but I hope. No,
I would tell you if I thought it sucked. That's the way I am.
And I dig it. It's just it made a lot of kids happy, and when I go down to the children's hospital and visit them once or twice a year, they still love it, and I got a lot to thank the internet, of course. Social media seems to prolong somebody's career very well these days. So.
And so does the network.
Right. Yeah, only $9.99.
Only $9.99, buddy. Hey, what kind of perks can you get out of being a superhero in the WWE? I mean, heck, Super Stacy.
That wasn't bad. I can tell you that. Stacy's an awesome person. I really love her. She's a good girl. Very cool.
So what's it like working for Vince McMahon?
Pays a lot. Get to go all over the world. So, working for him personally, I never had an issue with him. We've never, and there's been moments where, we'd have to shut the door and he'd jump my ass a little bit and I'd jump his a little bit. But for the most part, you got to understand, I've known that guy since, hell, I was, 8. So it's kind of more like if he's jumping my shit about something, it's almost like I'm hearing my dad, except the only difference is he doesn't have crazy ass hair and bites the head off of fishes on TV and shit.
And doesn't have such a strut, right?
Huh?
I said, and your dad doesn't walk like Vince McMahon, have that strut, right?
No. I think his lava might fall off if he tried to walk like that. So,
knowing the level of success that your father and your uncle had with Captain Lou, when it finally came time for you to win the World Tag Team Championship, and I know you hear a lot of wrestlers talk about, yeah, they're just props, all it is part of the story, blah, blah, blah. Did it mean anything to you at all? Is it a special thing that resonates with you, knowing where your father and uncle came from holding those belts as well?
Yeah, because it very much did. You know, despite the fact that you know that you're happy that you just won, you know, the number one tag team belts, you know, and it's in the world. That's awesome as shit. But then when you know that you just did a father-son type thing, you know, you accomplished the goal that your father did, then yeah, you know, it feels great. And there was a point in time where I think the camera caught me over in the corner, and I kind of crouched over, and the only thing I kept thinking right there is like, this is for you, Dad, you know. And I just from that point on, it was like couldn't wait to get in the back and call him and see how he liked the match first, because of course he's gonna let me know what sucked and what didn't and this and that and blah blah blah. But by the time I got to my phone, you know, he'd already blew it up a couple times. So so yeah, you know, it's a lot of people always ask me if you know, if I would have rather it been, you know, Eki that I won the championship with, and I tell them all yes, of course, you know, that's my blood. But as far as winning it with anybody else, man, no way in hell I would have wanted to win that belt with anybody else but Shane. You know, Hurricane was, you know, he fastly became one of my little brothers. So he's a new soul. That's what he is.
You know, when we look back, and again, I keep going back to your family because it just overwhelms me sometimes just thinking about the things they've accomplished. And you watch The Rock and Yokozuna, world champions in their own right, several tag team championships, obviously, between your family as well. Then you're coming to today, and you've got your little brother in the ring, not so little, Roman Reigns, who's making major headways in the WWE. What goes through your mind as you watch him from week after week, knowing that he's really attaining a level of stardom that, you know, very few people in this world has ever seen? You know, how does it make you feel seeing your little brother, I guess, accomplish his dreams?
About the same way I felt watching him grow up. He's always, you know, he's an older brother's. Oh hell, there's nothing to get pissed off at him about. Sometimes that drives me is because he's just been, you know, be honest with you, he reminds me of Emmett Smith. If I had somebody to put that up against, you know, is just the way he is. He works. He's a good kid, and you know, everything he's ever done athletically or sports-wise has just been a gold mine for him as far as, you know, being talented at what he does. But yeah, I can't, you know, whether he was Roman Reigns or not, he's still Joe Anoa'i to me. And, you know, I love him to death. That's, you know, that's the way it is. And as far as, you know, his level of success so far, of course everybody's happy. You know, I'm not the only one happy. I got, you know, sisters, and they're all happy. Everybody's happy for him. My mother drives me nuts because every time something happens to him, she's got to call me and find out. And I'm like, geez Louise, you were raised in this business as much as I am, and you still mark out. So yeah,
when you're sitting on your couch and you're watching him, and especially after the Royal Rumble and leading up to WrestleMania, and knowing that you know, the success he had with the Shield, and then all of a sudden he's the fan favorite, and people are starting to turn on him like John Cena. What's your thoughts, I guess, when you're sitting on the couch at home? Does it bug you, or you just say, yeah, it's the character, or what goes through your brain when you hear all the fans booing the fan favorite, I guess?
Well, for my first instinct, my first thought is, I feel like a big brother then, you know, because there's times where I'll be on Facebook and I see some negative shit and I'll want to answer it or, blah, 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 but then they'd probably sit there and think that I was a fake too or something. So, but, bottom line is it's not going to bug my brother. I can tell anybody that, and anybody that's listening that doesn't happen to like Roman Reigns, well, pack a lunch, motherfucker. He's not going anywhere soon.
He's there to stay, isn't he?
Hate it for you, and be honest with you, to whoever that kid was that cracked him with that briefcase, and just be real happy this ain't 20 years ago, because your ass probably would have got pretty, you would have got handled in the locker room. So, but that was, even with that point, that's when I really, stepped back out of, any kind of wrestling family, wrestling, anything. And that's when I was like, fuck, he's, somebody could really be pissed off at him that much that, they would go to something stupid length to do something. So now his safety is a concern. And, although I'm sure everything will be just fine and that kid, was just being a smart ass, but it goes to show that you never really know. Cause obviously, he's at a level of, so-called, he's at a level of stardom that I've never seen, so I can't imagine what would be running through his head or anything like that. But all I know is that he's got a big ass, mean family that's got his back, and that's all anybody needs to know is, hey, I'm Samoan, the rest don't matter.
Now, Rosey, I know how much you love interesting trivia, useless trivia, Jeopardy-like trivia. We kind of discussed that the other day. Are you aware, and Zane and I are in the Indianapolis area, that when Joe made his debut, it was at Survivor Series in Indianapolis, Indiana. Are you also, so that's the debut of the Shield. And the destruction of the Shield came in Indianapolis on a Monday Night Raw, and I saw both of those events.
Right.
I think that's interesting. I'm sure you didn't. Nobody knows that unless you're from here, I guess.
No, I did know that.
But I think it's interesting, and I know WWE certainly doesn't plan things like that, but it's kind of interesting little fun facts when you look around and see what's happened in certain cities and patterns and things like that. It's kind of cool.
Right. No, but to be honest with you, I swear to God, I knew that. I didn't even need the Jeopardy noise or to get it.
Hey, you're Rosey, you know all that stuff.
There's a really good friend of mine that lives there. Her name's Donna Reed. She's like a fan. I call her my fan family. She's a pretty cool girl, and she let me know that, and I was like, all right. I'm sure somebody's gonna ask me that on a internet radio interview, and I'm gonna know the answers. So, there you go.
And you've been prepping, Rosey, because okay, these boys are from Indianapolis. They're going to say something about this. I better be ready.
Right on.
Is it cool now? I don't know if it started with The Rock or when it started. Is it cool to finally see Samoans in wrestling not portrayed as savages, or they're portrayed as people just like anybody else? As you watch your brother, the mention of him even being Samoan is not hardly ever discussed. I mean, back in, obviously, your father and Uncle times, they were the Wild Samoans and the Head Shrinkers and Samoan SWAT teams and all this stuff came along. And is it kind of refreshing to see that they're moving on from that?
Yeah, I think I was the only one that wanted to be a Wild Samoan. Shit, it was a purple mask or
you're a hero, man.
Letting my hair down and sticking my tongue out a lot. But no, of course I'm glad. Man, I'm digging the shit out of my brother's character. That was something probably a lot of people don't know is when they brought Jamal back. We were entertaining the fact of basically being the shield. Hunter had sat us down and was like, "Hey, man, this is what I want you guys to do. Go out and get some ammos, get some boots, high-tech boots, and you know, we want to dress you up kind of like a militant group." And, you know, we're like, "Yeah, all right. I don't know where I'm gonna find me a big and tall army store, but we'll work on mine." So either or, I'm definitely glad to say that we did not end up falling into that character, because it definitely, you know, with it being on Joe and Seth and John or Dean, you know, they niched out a little. Well, they checked off something in wrestling history as, you know, at least being one of the greatest factions, if not the greatest to date.
What happened with that, though? You guys were, you know, Jamal came back. You guys were set to go again. And just like you said, they got big plans for you. What happened? All of a sudden, it was over before it started.
Man, I know. It's called the wrestling business. You know, it just happens. The entertainment business, whatever you want to call it. Bottom line is, my thought, they already knew what we were able to do and could do. B, they didn't have a lot of tag teams that we could work, and they weren't concentrating on tag teams. And C, who better Umaga than Jamal? You know, shit.
Right.
Umaga, that was 100%. You know, if you spelled his real name, you know, in Samoan, it would spell Umaga, because that was it. And that was also, I think, the nice ending to a wild Samoan savage type character.
Right.
Because I don't care how far down the line it comes, nobody's going to beat Umaga when it comes to that, you know. And then of course my dad and uncle are, you know, and the head shrinkers, Sam and Junior. You know, hey, it was the thing to be in the 80s and some of the 70s. So,
but they made they made Yokozuna a Japanese sumo wrestler. How in the hell did that come about?
Some of the best sumo wrestlers in Japan are the highest level sumo wrestler in Japan, Kanishiki or Konoseki, however you want to pronounce it. He's Samoan. There's a lot of Samoans over there that are sumo wrestlers.
Yeah, but they said he hailed from Japan, though. That's the thing.
Oh, well, I don't know. That, you know what? That's WWE. That's how Rosey and Jamal came about, is because they didn't want us to have our regular names, which we were using when we were the Island Boys, which Kimo and Ekmo. I was like, you know, well, we want to stir you away from the Samoan stigma. And I was like, well, we are Samoan, and the whole damn world knows it. And it's a name. Who in the hell's going to look at me and really believe my name's Rosey? Apparently, a lot of people now.
Yes, I said that you can't get away from being Rosey, right?
Oh man, it's all good. I'll turn my head to Matt or Rosey, preferably Matt though. So we'll let Rosey let Rosey sit down and Matt can go play.
This is the Undisputed Wrestling Show. We're talking to Rosey, otherwise known as Matt Anoa'i, and I'm about to tag it back into my brother, the bearded, Das Wunderbeard, St. Paisley. You're in the ring, buddy.
Hey, Matt, I know that our time's drawing short with you. What you'd mentioned social media and interacting with fans on Facebook earlier. How can our listeners reach you on there?
You can reach me at Epic Championship Wrestling, Jack. Everything Epic Championship Wrestling. You can like me on Facebook under none other Epic Championship Wrestling. I'm all over Twitter at Epic CW. You can hit me up on Instagram or follow me on follow Epic on Instagram. I pretty much head all the social media for that. I do not run the website, but as far as Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and Periscope, yeah, you can get in touch with me through those avenues.
Well, tell us a little about.
Hang on a second, Zane. Because Mr. Anoa'i was worried that he would forget these, he actually sent me all these links and stuff to make sure I put them over for him so he didn't forget. So, Facebook,
I remembered.
Facebook, www.facebook.com/pages/epic/championship/wrestling. Go to the website, www.epicchampionshipwrestling.com. Twitter @officialepicCW, and Instagram @epicchampionship.wrestling. And if you didn't get that, that gives you another reason to go back and re-listen to this broadcast again. How was that, Matt?
We're going to have to work on that with you, man. That was about as bad as Jimmy Wang Yang's interviews.
Oh, man.
So we'll work on it, you know.
Matt, tell us about Epic Championship Wrestling.
Oh, man, I opened it 3 months ago down in Pensacola area, Gulf Coast area. So it's just a local independent that we're running shows right now. We're at one show a month, and then next month we'll be moving up to 2, and then after Christmas in January we'll be right at 3 to 4 shows a month. And man, I got a good set of workers that are very talented and very hungry. And we just basically hit a bunch of towns around Pensacola, including Pensacola, Milton, the Bar area, for Panama City. I try and book as many shows or as many towns as I can that's closest to the beach, so it's not too far to get out. But a lot of people, they want to come and work for me and stuff, and we'll give them a chance. It's a good little weekend to come down, make a little extra money, and hang out on the beach and eat some Samoan chicken and stuff. So, but yeah, it's Epic Championship Wrestling. Make sure you guys follow it.
Your next big event is on September 5th, which is the Saturday of Labor Day weekend, right? So it'd be a great time to come down, even if you're not in the area. Come down and visit that area and go to your show.
Right. 4 lucky winners at the raffle time. At intermission, 4 lucky winners are going to win a spot on the lumberjack match that'll be during the main event, which will be Larry Lotto versus nobody else but my dad, Sika the Wild Samoan.
Well,
wow.
Those would be 4 lucky people. Maybe Rick and I can come down and enter your raffle.
Come on, I got 2 superhero and training outfits. Y'all can be our shits.
Sweet. Me and Zane are the shit, aren't we, Zane?
Yes, we can be. We smell like it sometimes.
Yes, we do.
I just have one more question for you real quick. Umaga, one of his biggest events was WrestleMania, where he was working with he was working with Vince McMahon against Donald Trump and Lashley, and that was it. That was the main event of that Mania. I don't care what went on last. That was what drew people to buy it. What are your thoughts so far on Trump's presidential bid?
Oh, who knows? You know what? I seen a picture on Facebook. Yeah, he's probably gonna add 27 levels to the White House, and put a big ass, over on the side of it. And I don't know. Hey, shit, man. You wonder why people. I don't know. That's I'm not gonna say a word. Who knows? There might be some crazy out there that might try and hit my brother with a fucking gavel because I said something about Trump being president.
Well, what's funny is that happened over the weekend with a crazy fan throwing a replica Money in the Bank briefcase at Roman Reigns, and then I was on WWEshop.com yesterday, and I saw that they are selling replica Money in the Bank briefcases for like $75. I couldn't believe that after that happened that they would still sell those.
I don't know, but if they sell them, maybe they should make it out of that foam rubber stuff.
No, yeah.
case. That way, if somebody does decide to chunk one in there, it's not probably going to hurt.
Like the old Hacksaw Jim Duggan 2x4s that they used to sell.
Oh yeah, I don't think Joe would have liked that too much.
Yeah.
If somebody chunked the 2x4 in there. But either way, I gave him some big brotherly advice and just let him know, next time if it does happen,
That is great advice. That's sage words.
that's what I'm here for.
So Matt, what made you decide, and a lot of people aren't even aware of this, back in, what was it, 2008, 2007, something like that, that ABC show, the Fat March or whatever, and a lot of people don't even remember even seeing it. But what prompted you to enter that, to be on that reality show?
Oh, well, to be upfront and honest, I was half buzzed on a 12-pack and sitting there internet surfing, and for some weird reason, I decided to look up reality show auditions. And, I told you earlier that I'd always, one of my things was wanting to be an actor too. And,
right.
So either way, I just looked it up, and the reason Fat March caught my eye is because I had tried to get on Biggest Loser, but they wouldn't let me do it because I was still under contract with WWE, and Vince wasn't buying the fact that I was like, look, let me go on this show, and then by the time I get off of it, I'm 150, 200 pounds lighter, and there's got to be some kind of crazy little angle we can do with that, or a program we can start with that, but nothing was, they weren't biting on anything I was saying. So that kind of I just ran across that, and I sent in, the application. But I was going to Japan every month, at this time. And, every time they responded, I just sent them what they wanted. And my wife at the time had called me while I was in Japan and said, hey, they want you to fly out to LA when you get back so they can do a heart test and, do an initial interview or a personal interview with you and stuff. And so when I got into Japan, I laid over for a couple days, or left from Japan. I laid over in LA for a couple days and went, and then the main producer, Cindy somebody, she just absolutely fell in love with me. So yeah, I think if there wasn't another producer, if she wasn't married, I'd probably be her freaking husband. But yeah, she was a real cool girl, and they obviously expressed that they definitely wanted me. So I kind of went home and let it marinate for a minute, and made the decision to call Japan and say, hey, I'm gonna do this weight loss show. So at that time, all I kept thinking about was, dude, you got a chance to go lose a shitload of weight and get paid for it. So, but just the weight I lost, it was cool enough for me. Even though I didn't get to finish, it was still pretty fun. It was an experience.
Before we let you go, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you this, and I'm completely shocked that Mr. Paisley did not ask you this. While you were in Japan, did you get a Ribera Steakhouse steak jacket?
Man, I did, and I think fucking Mauna Kea Mossman stole it.
Oh, no.
I don't know. I had it on the bus, and next thing you know, it was gone. And I waited 2 weeks, 2 tours for it, because they had a special order mine. It was like a 7X, but I wanted silver and black. I can't handle those little queer colors that they were giving out, And I didn't want a red and black one. I was like, no, I'll take Oakland colors on this one. So get me a silver and black one. So, whoever gets those jackets had one, and man, I had it for about 3 hours, and then all of a sudden, maybe it was my fault for drinking too many beers there, but yep. The next day on the bus, it was gone, and I was pissed off.
All right, Matt, you have your platform right now. What do you want to say to Mossman? Tell him.
Oh, you're a diva, bitch. Man, give me a call if you get this little beer bag. Love you too, man. You're family.
Oh, good grief.
It was either him or D'Lo Brown or Bull Buchanan, and I don't even think they know anybody my size. Jay is the only one I know that hangs out with other Polynesians. You know, he lives in Hawaii, so shit. I'm sure he probably got it for his cousin or something, but either or, it's all good.
This is the Undisputed Wrestling Show. We've had a lot of fun tonight talking to Matt Anoa'i, otherwise known as Rosey the Ship. Before we let you go for tonight, what do you have to say to all the people out there who's listening and followed your career for all these years?
Man, thank you very much, everybody. Man, just have a blessed life, and you know, try not to let too much shit get you down, and you know, thanks for supporting my family, whether it's good or bad. Thanks for supporting. You know, it's bottom line is thanks for supporting any professional wrestler or anybody that has anything to do with professional wrestling, because that's one thing everybody that's listening and everybody involved, including myself, is, you know, we all got one thing in common, and that's our love for wrestling. So keep it going, man. We're not, you know, it's not that Carnival, the State Fair Act anymore. You know, we're straight up mainstream, and you guys are the ones that make that happen. Don't ever forget that. You know, it's y'all's hearts that you know, pump our blood. So keep it right, one love, and see you in the parallel universe.
On behalf of myself and Zane, really appreciate you giving us your time. I know we've had a couple reworks of getting you on the show, and it's been a complete privilege getting to talk to you. You're a cool dude, and we wish you nothing but the best of luck on whatever you choose to do, man.
Right on. I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Very welcome. And everybody buy a Roman Reigns shirt.